Hello, this is Patrick W. Crawford of Moo-Ack Productions, and this is the walkthrough of the creation of Old Griefer, my most recent animation. And so the target audience for this video is really anyone who has an interest in animation, even if you know nothing about it. So if you have never used a 3D modeling program like Blender before, I'm hoping to walk through the creation of this entire process in a way that you can understand, just to see what's entailed in the process. And if you do have more experience in 3D animation, then hopefully you can at least see someone else's work through process to see an alternative way to go about animating something. So the first step in sort of the precursor to creating the animation is getting everything set up. So this wasn't the first Minecraft video I created, so I had some of this set already. I just moved the window a little bit down so you can see everything alright. So here I have a generic file that I've been building up basically that has a number of different, for example, the mobs in here. Like this is the snowman I used in the previous videos with rig controls that allows me to control the object. So that if I wanted to create another animation, I would just import this into another file. I also have in different layers the different blocks using the textures from the Minecraft game files that I've just, applied from, or I applied onto a cube. There we go. And so all the different blocks, so that if I want to create a scene, all I have to do is quickly turn on snapping, quickly, take a glowstone, duplicate, move it on the x-axis, duplicate x, so forth. Just for those Blender people out there, snapping for this specific case is very useful because it makes it so that it only moves in integers along whatever axis you choose, or at all. So for setting up a scene, I'm usually having snapping turned on so that I don't have to worry about getting it exactly on the grid line, which is really useful. So that is sort of the block overview. So to create the scene, like I said, I just duplicate, move blocks around and whatnot. As for setting the character up before any animation or anything, all you see here, I have two characters, one of the villagers, which I haven't used before, and then the general Minecraft character. Seemed a bit funny here. There we go. Alright, so same sort of thing. You have what's called bones, or an armature, and this allows you to control the various aspects of the character. I'm sure you've seen this before. So if I rotate the bone that's highlighted now, it'll move his entire arm. If I just move this part, it'll move, his forearm, whatever, and whatnot. I have a bit more of an advanced control over his legs, which helps with animating moving scenes. So for example, turn snapping off. I can move just the end of his foot, but it also controls the bending of the knee. And so that's useful for if you're, let me just go into solid mode so you can see everything better. If I were animating a character walking forward, for example like that, all I have to do to keep his feet placed properly is move the other foot, maybe put it up to give it some bend or whatever. It's more like a leap, I guess. But then this one here stayed in the same position as before when I moved this. So what you see in a lot of I guess beginners animations is that the feet slide back and forth because you have to try and move the feet to stay in the same position as it was before you move the entire rig. But in this case, they move on separate controls, so you can keep it in the same spot more or less. So that makes a huge difference in animation. As far as the facial controls, which are probably even more complex, I guess. Let me turn on X-ray so you can see through to all the bones. What I have here is a number of bones, one for each sort of feature, so like the eyebrows. This is one control for an eye if you wanted to, derpy face or whatever. One control for both eyes. And then, for example, the mouth, the corner of the mouth, you can scale it in or out. Teeth have their own control. You can see the top of the teeth, which normally you don't. And then, for example, in a separate mesh, the eyelids. And so basically, these are Well, here it's actually a separate meshes for controls because it's getting too cluttered in the object. But basically, these objects connect or are linked to parts of the model. So like this box here is directly linked to, scale it out, this box here, which is just another object, but it copies the scale, under here, copies the scale of this object. So all I have to do is control this object. That's nice and easy to locate and scale it around to control the eyelid. And in the same way, these connect to groups of vertices in the mesh. That was a bit strange. And so it just follows that nice and easily. And so one of the nice things that I've done that makes this a lot easier to animate is if your figure is just facing straight forward, it's not too much of an issue. You can just move, like if I want to move the eyebrow, I press 1 to go into the front view and press G to move his eyebrow wherever, rotate a little bit. Not too difficult. But if, say, my character's head were at an angle, so I'll just go into this other group of layers, rotate, and he's like looking up at the sky or something. Now it'd be much more difficult to make sure that the eyebrow stays perfectly on the face of the character. So I've added a number of bone constraints that I've done for all of the face rigs, which basically limit the location so that on the local space, which would be the this cube here, it has a fixed, X it happens to be. It has a fixed X position, yeah, so that I can't move it in or out of the face. So right now it just stays on the surface of the face no matter what orientation I'm looking at. If I were to turn this off, you notice that the eyebrow can come out here and floating in space, and you don't want that. So having this enabled for everything just helps it, be easier to animate without worrying about exactly what angle you're at. So that's basically the animation rig. You also notice that if you go into texture mode, he's missing his hair. Just for the ease of animation, it's one of these files here, but basically it's disabled in the viewport so it doesn't get in the way. And often you notice I animate just in this solid mode so that you can just see everything better. So that's basically the extent of the precursor to the animation setup. So the next step that I did was create the sound file for the voiceover for the animation. And I used a blue Snowball, which is a pretty good quality microphone, USB microphone, that's also for a reasonable price. And I just recorded that through Garageband and exported to this file here.
Hello, fellow griefers.
Yeah, so I created that file, and then what I do is import that into Blender as an aid to do the mouth animation. Because the very first mouth animation that I do is for the mouth only. I only do the mouth animation first and worry about everything else later. Because it is fairly tedious, it's annoying to do, but it's also very necessary. So here I have, this is the object that is connected to the sound file. So if I were just to scroll through here, you would hear it.
Hello, fellow griefers.
So basically what I do is I go frame by frame. The first thing I do is I create a set number of predefined poses. Yeah, you can see down here, scroll up again, I have a lot of keyframes. Each of those lines is a keyframe for this object. And so you can see lots of data and animation and keyframes moving around. It's quite a pain. So that's why it's important to be able to do it in the most systematic way possible, which is helped by loading this sound file and turning on audio scrubbing. I believe it's on here. Audio scrubbing, yeah. So if I were to just do frame by frame, now using the arrow keys, you can hear what sound's going on at any one point. And so you can sort of match like that's an S noise sort of, so I'd put the S keyframe there. And what I mean by the S keyframe is what I was about to say before. I'm not sure if I have them still. Probably deleted them, but basically I have, say, 10 or 12 pre-shaped keyframes. A keyframe is basically just a position and scale and attribute of an object in time. So for example, one keyframe, let me go back to one. I might want to have a more closed mouth, so I take the mouth controls that I've created before and scale it along the x-axis so it's smaller. Maybe I want to bring it down as well. So then I would keyframe this as one of my set keyframes, which I would then duplicate and use at any other point in the animation I want to. So like I make one keyframe that relates to the S noise, one for the O, one for the sort of M. You can look up sort of like the standard ones used for different mouth animations, but for Minecraft character it's a bit unique because it's very square and blocky, so I just kind of went from scratch on it and seen what at least looked like the sound more than not. So, like I said, right now you see the overall animation, but imagine it's just the face going through. I animate from start to finish just the mouth controls. So I'm finished with that because it's easy. If we go into here, you see, this one here. All of these locked ones here, those are the keyframes that I've set specifically and only for the mouth controls. So you have like the mouth bottom right, teeth bottom, so forth. And then eyebrows I also have like as a separate object for whatever reason. So, going back to camera view. The next step after that is to do some of the easy figure movements, such as basically go into my other bone layer, which is controlling for the arms and neck and everything. So the next step I did was do like the head movements, or do the scaling of the eyebrows and whatnot. You can see the keyframes here a lot less. Let me just mute this because this will get annoying otherwise. So I do all the simple movements, maybe even some of the camera animation. Again, it's just keyframing everything. And then at the same time, I'm also setting up my scene. So I'm not actually physically moving the character, in the sense I'm not having him doing the walk animations or major body motions, but just the simple animations in neck and eyes that would coincide with what he's saying at the time. So simultaneously, I'm also sort of creating the scene. If I go into textured mode here, takes a little second. You see the overall scene that I've used. Up here you have the clouds. Here you have the inside scene. So like I said, I have still back over here the blocks from before. What I've done in this scene is I just enable these layers. I've placed the blocks, then I've joined them, and then I've deleted the unnecessary vertices so that it doesn't have to load it. And that also removes like duplicated edges or not. That just takes more processing time than necessary. And so basically what I do is get the lighting correct, connect one. I have one light that is parented to his face so that even as he's going between the inside and outside scene, it always makes sure his face is lit up properly. And so basically I keep saying that, basically. I go through, animate his figure, the simple figure movements, and then I start thinking about how I want to do the rest of the scene, animate the rest of the scene. So actually what I do is, if I scroll through here, you notice the camera basically stays in one position, along the y-axis at least, until about this point. Because basically what I do is I have this island here of blocks is all connected to this control here. So if I just move this around, the island and the water displacement follows. So after I've done that simple, the movement of like the head and eyelids and all that, I start setting up all this. So here is a plane that has a displacement modifier. It's subdivided several times to basically increase the number of vertices, and then it has two separate modifiers, displacement modifiers, that each correspond to one of either this control or this control. So for example, if I move this control on the y-axis, it looks like the water is moving in that direction, even though the plane itself is staying in the same spot. Move this one, select it. Again, it also moves in any which direction. So basically what I do is I animate them going in opposite directions. And so that looks like it's more realistic ocean going in kind of weird or different directions. Just an easy way to generate that. And so both of these objects are connected to this object, which is the control for the island, so that when he's on the boat and he suddenly crashes in the island, all I have to do is animate this coming in this way all of a sudden, which I do over here. So after I've sort of got the placement of that, I've also, and also done the animation of the this part of the set, falling away, going down, basically disappears. Then I start doing extra animation of the character and extra special effects. Like for right now, this is one of the particle systems that I've actually disabled because otherwise it goes far too slow. But if I were just to scrub through this, it's basically an explode modifier. It will just, take all the vertices of the, or different faces of the glass piece and then explode in random directions. It seems to have gotten off with the sync of everything else, but normally it will also interact with this, which I've used as a collision. But generally I have it turned off just because it's in the real-time view, it makes it very slow. So like I said, the next thing that I do is animate the major movements of the character. And so that would be, for example, like I add a little bit of movement of the hips or whatever, so it's not just completely stationary. When he's moving to onto the boat, I'm making it so he moves up and down, and the boat moves up and down as well. This just gives a bit more realism. And then when he crashes into the boat, I do the animation where he's going from side to side. Again, just keyframe, and again, you notice that I'm not animating the feet all stay in one place. I'm just using this control, so that's an example where this IK constraint is really useful because all I have to do is move this, and it looks like he's falling in that direction. And then do the animation where he's jumping up there onto the sand and walking, whatnot. A little bit awkwardly done. It could have been better, but it's mostly out of the camera use. It doesn't really matter right there. And so after I've set that animation all properly, you can kind of see how I did everything here. Like for example, the camera zooms out, then back in, then he's kind of like floating in space, and I magically moved the pig under because it's just like over there somewhere, but the camera's zoomed in far enough so you don't actually see that. Then when it zooms out again, then you say, oh, he's on a pig. Great. So in the same way, you often, to do the extra special effects or items appearing and disappearing, you basically kind of do that. You shove things off of the screen when you don't want them to actually be there. So for example, this stick and box, this must be an older file because like some of the keyframes have disappeared, I guess, but normally this box outside of the range where it actually appears where the when he crashes onto the island, I have them keyframed so that they're like way down there somewhere. Like you also see I have some, like another stick is down there. Things that are way below the camera that just aren't visible. So that's the way to have things appearing and disappearing on the camera. In the same way, you have the diamond particle emitter. So I just turn this off. Basically what I've done is it's just, so like again, it's out of the frame, then it's somewhere like way down there before. I don't even know where it is. Yeah, down there. And then just for the frame that I needed, I move it up, and so that when it's on camera, it appears to be on his hand. And then to get the particle effect, it's another particle system, which adds an object, which is another diamond. And that basically just creates instances of, because if I were just to do Halo right now, you would, I have to turn it on, don't I? Goodness. You would just see little dots coming out. Yeah, so you can sort of see the dots. That would represent every object that would be a diamond in its place. And so that makes the effect of the diamonds coming out of his hand. So, that's basically it for the animation side of it. So, after this stage in the animation, once you've rendered all, how many was it? 1,308 frames. then you go on to sound editing and fun stuff like that. So close this out. You can see here one important thing to do when you're really any sort of video editing. The proper way to do it is to not export video as video, but as frames, individual frames. Especially when you're doing a really long animation that's thousands of frames long. This allows you, because if you were to animate and export a video and it was interrupted halfway through, you would lose the file. Whereas this, I can start and stop the rendering process whenever I want. Just pick off on the last frame that I finished, so I don't have to do it in one go, which is really convenient, especially if you want to just render part of it overnight, part of it over the next night, whatever. So I have all these individual frames here, which I just quickly in Premiere turn into a movie file to use for the Garageband file. Where did I put that? To do the sound editing. So that is here. So I would say that sound editing is probably just as important as anything else. It's often underrated and underdone. But sound editing can really make or break a video. It attracts the user or the watcher into your video a lot more. So it's important to get it right and to do it well. There are a number of different, of course, a number of different audio editors you can use. Audacity works perfectly. I often use Audacity to actually convert the Minecraft sound effects into a format that my Mac more natively recognizes. But I just find GarageBand really easy to use because there are a lot of features that help it to be just more streamlined and easy to work with. I realize now this is the file I used to do the raw recording, so this is a different take. So this is the wrong one. Alright, give me a second. Old Griefer 2. There we go. This is the file that has all my sound effects. So you import the video, and so you can see what's going on at every instance. Just move this up again. Oh, come on. Alright, there we go. So again, I just move the video over. That one will do. And so again, I use the raw recording of the sound file and not import the one that was exported by Blender from Premiere. And so clicking up here brings down this file here, which is just a preview of the movie at every point. And then I start adding sound. So for example, I have a little ambient shower noise in the background that slowly gets quieter so it doesn't become overpowering the audio. This swoosh sound that has did any effects to that one. I just have a bit of a pitch change so it's a bit lower. Soft ocean effect in the background.
I'm a terrible seaman, but never mind.
So lots of different things. Yeah, so basically you just go through every point that you see a specific sound effect should be added in. Then I, add the sound effect there. I change the master reverb or whatever around so that makes it look like it fits the scene more, etc. And just go through every sound effect. What a lot of people do is they tend to make certain sound effects too loud, so like a stepping noise that isn't really that important. You notice I have the audio, this is the volume control here, I have it very low. So
possibilities are endless. I'm on a
So you hear that you can kind of hear in the background, but it's not like the main noise, where if you just left it like default, it's not even default, but there.
Possibilities are endless.
It's very loud. And you don't really want that. So you want to be conscious of what is an important sound effect and what isn't to adjust the audio level accordingly. And so that's basically it for the audio recording. The other thing is for my voice, as you can tell, it's not actually that low. So again, I've used an auto pitch. I've used a noisy noise reducer here, and then an auto pitch, not auto pitched, but I've lowered the pitch of the sound a little bit so that it sounds a bit deeper. And so that's basically it for the sound editing side of it. So after that, I go into final editing basically, and doing the titling and whatnot. So I just open this, and so now Premiere Pro has opened, so you can see the project file that I used for this video. It's nothing too complex really. So here I have the original video frames that I've imported as video. So in Premiere, the way you do that is you import, and then you select the first frame in the video, and then you import as numbered stills. So now it interprets those individual frames as video. And here, this is an important thing you need to keep track of during the entire process of creating an animation, is that your frame rate is consistent, especially since we've synced audio to the movement of the animation. So I would go under here, under Modify, Interpret Footage, and change it to be the same that I've used throughout, which was 23.98. So, and then I would just place this in the project file like I have already. Redo that since it's already there. And then I would place the exported sound file from Garageband here as well. So after that, I do the titling effects, which this time I used a combination of Premiere's built-in titling things for this one here, and as well as using LiveType, which is another program that's exclusively for making titles of animations and whatnot. But since even though I'm not actually animating these titles and figures, it still makes it easy to apply the same effect to everything, such as like a slight glow on the background. So basically each of these objects is just referring to one of these things here. It's easier to place it. It has more convenient tools to, change everything in a consistent way. And so this I end up just exporting as a frame or a video. Here you have the old griefer text as well. So that I then just overlay at the end here. And again, the nice thing is that since this is meant for video, it can it will interpret, if I put in a footage piece of media, then it will also render that footage here, which is why I can get the video in here and still have the same glow effect applied to the text and whatnot. Then after that, I just have the logo I just quickly made in Gimp, a photo editing piece of software, and added a little bit of a glow, and that was about it. So, only one other note: since not every video editor is able to import frames as a video, I will quickly show you how you can also do it using just Blender, which of course is open source, so you can use it for anything. So, as this opens, slowly but surely. Alright, so I'm going to press Control left, left, left until I get to this frame, which is basically the image sequencer, or you could call it a movie editor as well. Press Shift A to go to image, because I'm importing an image. Then, oh dear, I have to find it now. Blender, mine, old griefer frames. What I do is can I scroll out at all? No, probably not. I click and hold and drag to get these crossbars and select as many frames as I can. I have to do it more in one go, which is a bit annoying. Selecting all the frames, so many frames. You get the idea. So you would select all the frames, then you add image strip, and now it interprets this as a video sequence. If I were to press Alt A, it plays the animation a bit slowly, but nonetheless. So then what I go is make sure the settings are the same. 24 frames per second, it should be 23.98. Change the output to something that you want, and the important bit is to make sure you actually change it to a movie file. I usually use QuickTime just because it's easy to do. 75% is decent quality to size ratio. Although if you're going to be exporting to a movie, To another movie editor, you probably should just do a bit higher, since you want more raw recording. Have this do the have your movie editor do the compression, but then you would just do that. You would hit animate, and it would output a video file. So that's pretty much the extent of this walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed it or learned something from it. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know. And aside from that, this is Patrick W. Crawford of Moo-Ack Productions, and I'll see you next time.